So why is it that Europeans are obviously slimmer than Americans? The answer is actually not what you see in most of these YouTube videos. So stick around because it's interesting to go down this rabbit hole. But before I go on, I want to ask you guys for a favor. I've noticed that in my English channel, I only have 25% of viewers subscribed to the channel. In my Spanish channel, which is much larger, has over 230K subscribers, that is 43%. So if you could do me the favor of subscribing to show your appreciation and also honestly to help me out with the channel itself. YouTube does not like the kind of content that I do, and I try not to even mention these things to you guys, but just an example, the video that I recently uploaded about using a sock with coins as a weapon of some sort, that got me a strike. And I actually had to appeal that if you get 3 strikes, you lose your channel. Fortunately, I got that reversed, but it just goes to show how being a smaller channel usually means you're more vulnerable to this kind of thing. And when you ask for these things to be reviewed, you have a lot less luck in general. This time I was lucky. In the past, it's not been the case. So please, if you appreciate what I do, take a second. I know how it is, but subscribing to a channel, it just means that you will probably get notified every once in a while about some of the videos I do. Sometimes it's not even that because again, YouTube and the kind of content that I do, it's not usually aligned. But the sub does mean something when they check these things out. Okay, enough of that. Let's get to this because usually you've heard a bunch of things and I want to show you this from Ryan Wozer, and this is typical, right? Listen to this.
Goal in France. And we've noticed that the average North American is much bigger than the average European. We kind of knew that Europeans have
bigger? No, maybe more overweight, more obese. The average European is 5'10". The average American is 5'9". The average European weighs 156 pounds. The average American weighs 178 pounds. So it's not bigger as in tall, it's more weight.
Have supposedly much healthier lifestyle than the average North Americans, but it became really apparent
McDonald's isn't healthy
to us when we're actually traveling to these places. So I'm sure that there are many other scientific factors that might contribute to the reasons why, the average European.
It's definitely not because we eat McDonald's and just ride around in cars all day.
Okay, so yeah, that would be one of the typical things you hear about McDonald's. And listen, all over Europe, you have McDonald's, you have Kentucky Fried Chicken, you do have. Maybe it's not as prevalent like every damn little corner has, but you have them. Now, let's say you go to any European capital known for tourism like Paris or Rome or Madrid. Do you have these places? Yes. Are there people there? Sure. Is that what typically people go for? Maybe some of the younger locals will go for it a little bit more, which just shows how you notice more obesity in kids, and that is a problem statistically everywhere. Look at this. Recent studies indicate approximately 20% of school-age children in Europe countries are overweight or obese, and 5% are obese, right? So 20% overweight or obese and 5% obese. In North America, these figures are 30% obese or overweight and 15% that's gonna be obese. Obesity is that it's not just a little bit chubby, it's no, that kid has a serious health problem. Even being a little bit overweight is not ideal, and the more overweight you are and the closer you are to obese, the more health problems you will drag along. But it's noticeable how 15% obesity versus 5% obesity. Yet, in Europe, it has been going up as well. Why? Well, we will get to that in a second. Let's go back to one of these other videos that I came across. This is from Asmongold TV, and he says this, which is also very typical. Check this out.
Mainly convenient drive-through that's been literally optimized to make you make bad decisions. It's truly no wonder that some people just can't resist. Like these companies.
Well, that's true. Certain psychological tricks maybe should be like, demonized more and like maybe even illegal.
Oh, we'll talk about that in a second. But he just flies over that and goes straight into this.
But like, I bet they try this stuff in other countries too. Like, I bet they have pretty much the same menus. So like, how is this a problem with like the fast food if it's only really represented in one country? What are you getting at? What I'm getting at is I think that Americans have a self-control problem and they can't stop eating fast food and being fat and disgusting, and they're trying to blame it on the company because they don't want to take accountability for it.
So, nothing against Asmongold. I actually like his channel because of the video game stuff he does, and I actually watch some of it. It's not because of that. Now, that is a typical thing of... It combines several factors. It combines the American exceptionalism, both on this thing and a number of others, like, oh, we're so different from everyone else. Believe me, everyone thinks they're different from everyone else. Every person in this planet thinks he's somewhat a little bit special or very special. And every country thinks, oh, but we are Americans. We are different because we have this, this, and that. And the same goes for people from any other country. Canadians think, but, we being Canadians, or we being Mexicans, or we being Argentines, or whatever country, there's usually going to be a bit of that. Now, it is true that it's exacerbated quite a bit in the United States, and a lot of this has to do with most eyes in terms of culture and the influence of entertainment puts the eyeballs on what's happening in the United States, right? So any new movie, any new TV series, it's usually going to be strongly influenced by that, right? But you're not stupid, you're not overly lazy, or, right? You're not specially bad or good compared to anyone else, and certainly not with most people from Europe that are kind of like very similar in many other aspects. So the idea that Americans are just lazy and stupid and that's why they're fat, that's not true. It's simply not true. You may be influenced by other factors, which he just mentioned, and he doesn't even realize the part about, they try these things.
One country. What are you getting at? What I'm getting at is I think that Americans have a self-control problem.
To make you make bad decisions. It's truly no wonder that some people just can't resist.
They try these things they do these things. It's not that they try, they do these things in other places.
Like these
Well, that's true. Certain psychological tricks maybe should be demonized more, and like maybe even illegal.
Illegal. It's actually illegal to do many things that are perfectly legal in the United States. In the United States, you have things that are perfectly legal that are completely banned in Europe. Some of those, when you usually talk about the big EU bureaucrats, and that's where some of this stuff comes in. And you find this, and it's even biased when you Google it. The internet itself is biased towards the United States, while the EU tends to adopt a more precautionary and restrictive approach reflecting its consumer preferences and cultural attitudes towards food production. The US leans towards a science-based, evidence-driven regulatory framework that aligns with the technological advances and production practices. That sounds a lot more scientific and advanced and better, and these dumb fucking Europeans that stick to their culture and their traditions don't do things by science. That is pure bullshit. That is pure lies. The thing is that in Europe, they have certain very specific regulations in terms of what you can put in food or not, the amount of sugar. Okay, we're doing this for children. Okay, how much sugar is there? No, you're not allowed to do that. And there are certain exceptions, like with imports, and usually, and this is for many European countries that they've been to, you have in the aisles in supermarkets, you have the import stuff, which is going to be like 90% American, right? Because everything else being local in terms of Europe, as in French, German, all of that stuff is basically like all the same, unless it's very specific to that country, like, I don't know, like Marmalade, right, from UK. But if not, usually the import stuff is going to be sugary cereals, sugary candy, and extremely sugar. And it's not as if you don't have candy, you do, but the amount of sugar that they have, the amount also on certain ingredients that are, considered illegal in Europe are completely legal in the United States. The amounts of these things that are maybe illegal in Europe, perfectly legal in the United States. Because at the end of the day, you have the FDA, you have the big food lobby in America that basically says what laws should be, which is always going to be geared towards our benefit in terms of the corporation. How much crap can I sell and maximize profit? Now, in Europe, that just doesn't work the same way. For example, not only are you banned from just having certain ingredients, there's also laws in terms of transparency, of showing you how much that is. But what's not even mentioned here, and I haven't seen it mentioned in a number of these videos, is that in Europe, you cannot advertise targeting children, specifically children. And I'm not sure if this is a self-regulatory thing, because I've read about that before. Food marketing, EU pledge signatories oblige themselves to not advertise food and beverage products to children, or advertise only products meeting specific nutritional criteria. So you cannot advertise in TV or elsewhere crap for kids. Candy. No, you cannot do that. So you don't see it on TV, you don't see it on magazines, you don't see it on signs. And it gets down to that nitty-gritty thing that if you just label all of that, it's just that Brussels bureaucracy. Well, look into what it actually means. Some of these things, such as you cannot advertise, and you cannot use like cartoons, right? Like little cartoons to promote food that is not healthy based on their nutritional value. Well, all of those things matter because, as we were talking about before, this is down to a damn science. The way in which they influence the behavior of children, the way in which they incorporate these things through cartoons, toys, the different ways of advertising. And I think that the younger generations are a lot more exposed to the advertising that you see here, like in YouTube. Again, this probably will fall into some sort of weird EU regulation of you cannot show that to kids in YouTube in Europe, but you can show it in the United States. So ads are different here as well. What I'm going down here to, trying to narrow it down a little, there's a lot more protection in terms of the laws that you have in Europe. By far, this is by far the clearest example. And that's the thing that matters the most. When you have laws that protect not just you and me, adults, which we are also exposed because we are so easy to manipulate. The video about the drive-through reality of drive-throughs by Kiana Duchery, I'll leave the link for there below. It is an incredible science of even the sign. It has an anti-reflective. They spent billions updating those things so that you cannot see the menu a few feet away, so as to not make a smarter decision for yourself. Because if you just see it when it's perfectly aligned with you and you're rushing, you have people behind you, and you're rushed into making a quick decision that is going to be usually against your own best interest. So they have expert psychologists. They spend millions and millions of dollars on working on the psychology of all of this experience, right? So as to maximize profit and maximize the amount of food that you get, right? And you buy, because at the end of the day, that's the idea. That's not something that, as far as I know, is being regulated, but the advertising, hell yes. It's not just that. You cannot advertise medication in Europe. I've never seen one. While on the other hand, all of the advertising that I see on US TV, it's, what the hell are you talking about? Isn't this something that a doctor should prescribe you when you're sick or when you go get yourself checked out? Why is it that I'm being told to ask my doctor about this shit? I don't even have this problem. Why would I be interested? It's just influencing you constantly. And if you think you have one chance in hell about fighting all of that machinery, all of that marketing, all of those billions, it's not millions, it's billions of dollars spent into manipulating you, into making you have certain reactions to everything, even from the freaking smell that you feel, even driving. If you think you have a chance, you don't. So it will take a lot of will to fight that. And it's usually something that affects mostly people based on their social economic background. If you have less education, you're a lot more likely to be obese. This false narrative of, oh yeah, the fatter you are, the richer you are, that is not true. It's actually the opposite, the better, and it reflects also within the United States. On the richer neighborhoods, people are a lot slimmer, a lot thinner, and even if you have a McDonald's, it's going to be maybe one McDonald's a lot nicer And, it's different. It's not the mass-produced garbage. It comes even down to the food. There's entire videos comparing your McDonald's from the United States to your McDonald's in Europe. Again, the food standards come into play because some of this stuff you legally cannot put into the food. And a lot of this stuff goes down into the craveness of it, how much it makes you want to eat more. There's studies about the more sugary drinks you have, the more you want to eat as well. You're not satiated nearly as much. Now, there are things that they did mention in a number. It's not just these, but in a number of these videos, this lady was mentioning about not only the prevalence of fast food, which it is all over Europe, but let's say you go to Rome, right? You see a McDonald's and it's empty. There's very few people there. You see some of the local ones that offer traditional, and yes, usually tourists will not want to go to a damn McDonald's when they're in Rome. You go eat pasta. You don't eat that, right? And that also is reflected by many of the adults. The younger generations are a little bit more likely. The other thing I want to touch upon is walking. The idea that you are thinner because you walk more. No, you're healthier because you walk more. You're not going to be slimmer because of walking more. It may affect to a very small percentage, but this idea that people in Europe walk everywhere all the time, yeah, walking a lot more, I won't even bother looking it up. I have no doubt whatsoever that people in Europe walk a lot more than in the United States because cities are built that way. You're looking at cities that are maybe a couple thousand years old, like in the case of Rome, or even more. And yes, you have this structure of how that's supposed to be. It's also the business side of things. You are not going to be getting much support from the lobbies of pharmaceuticals, of food, or the auto industry in building a city where people walk or take convenient public transportation in the United States, as you do in Europe. In Europe, you see people that are extremely wealthy that they take the train all the time. Why? Because it's convenient. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that if I have to go somewhere that's very nearby and you just feel like, I don't want to pick up the car and I don't even want to, get into it. And no, I just rather go walking, and you step into a train that it's nice, it has a view, it is convenient, fast, and you're there. People go on holidays on public transportation. I see this all the damn time. Like a guy goes from Germany to a place in the beach in Spain or in France. Depending on where they're going, they don't even get a car. They don't even rent a car, because from the airport there's a train that drops you conveniently in that city that you're going to spend your holidays. So why would you, right? And it's not a matter of economics so much as it's a matter of infrastructure and convenience. In terms of cultural aspect of eating, the lady mentioned that she saw people taking a lot more time when eating. That is also very much true, and that is cultural, and that has a huge impact. Traditional American scenery in dinner time, Simpsons style, everyone with a little tray watching TV, that is fucking poison for your brain and your body. That is the worst thing you could possibly do. And I'm telling you, as someone that lived in the United States as a kid and then moved back to this country right here, Argentina, where I lived most of my life. And because I lived over there in Boston as a kid, when we were back in Argentina, we would traditionally have TV on at dinner time. So everyone who was sitting at the table at dinner, right, we were all eating and watching TV. That's what we did in the United States. That's what we did back in Argentina. And I remember people that saw that were like, what are you fucking, are you crazy? Don't you people talk when you're eating? No, we just watch TV like we did back in US, right? And that's strange. I mean, even years later when I got married, my wife was, why do you people do this? Why are you watching TV while eating? Well, it's what you do. And then there's this idea of convenience, of drive-through, fast. Just go with the car. You're fucking overweight, but you go with your car and you pick up a bunch of shit that you shouldn't even be eating, and you quickly eat that. Well, the quickly eating aspect, it's terrible. It's not good for you, and you know what? You eat a lot more. So when they mention also the size of portions, I think that they show something like that. It is true that the average size of food in Europe, it's going to be a lot smaller. And why? Well, because it's supposed to be quality stuff that you will be enjoying for a while. You're a lot more satiated by actually cooked food. We're fortunate enough that we have a very, in my family, my wife cooks everything. I do as well every once in a while, in spite of the rumors around. Yeah, I'm actually pretty much into doing my own cooking too. But mostly it's my wife. But it's all prepared. There's nothing that is not prepared from basic ingredients. It's meat, it's stuff, it's all cooked, right? And maybe if there's some special occasion, or maybe getting a pizza on weekends, it's something that we actually do. Even that is going to be a lot healthier because you have, and I'll give you a perfect example. You have Domino's, right? You have Domino's pizza you can order. Even Domino's is probably going to be better in Europe than in the United States, but when you order Domino's and you order the other Italian little place right next to it, guess what? The Italian right next to it is a lot better. It's not only, it just doesn't feel as bad in the stomach as the other industrial fast food place. Maybe the other one is, you get it that both are pizza, but one is made traditionally using Italian methods and better ingredients, and you just eat a couple of those and you're perfectly fine. The other one, the Domino's, you will eat a lot more and you will feel like shit the following day. There has to be something about that. I don't know exactly what it is. You can do a lot of research, but it is clearly the case that in our family, if we eat from one, it's not the same as getting from the other. This other thing is also insanity. In the United States, even for the food that's being provided for kids, I don't know, it was kind of recently that kids in schools in the United States could have pizza and McDonald's. But look at this stuff. This is bread with sugar. That's your, a traditional American food of peanut butter and jam, right? That's garbage. That's not food. That is sugar. All of this is sugar on a piece of probably the worst possible bread. It doesn't even look like bread. It looks gray, brownish. I don't know what this is, but it doesn't look like actual bread. So you get the point. It is just bad in general. Even when they do a video about how, we're providing kids with better, healthier meals, they're still awful. And it's because of big food, big pharma, right? The big everything lobby that makes these decisions for you. You don't have actual people looking after your own interests, having laws that control what these companies can do or not. It's the companies themselves deciding that, we're going to be doing this, we're going to be doing that, because that's how we will sell more. The idea that the FDA is the one that decides the nutritional value for the pyramid that you're supposed to follow, it is incredible. It's insane. It's just the example of, it's like asking Pfizer if you should buy their shit or not. Yes, they're going to be saying yes. Get everything that we sell, take all of our medications, you probably need everything, and that's how it goes. And all of these things affect you in different ways. For example, the idea of eating and watching TV. You're not taking your time. You're not eating slowly. You're going to be eating more. And these days, even more so, you see people with their cell phones. No, take your time and engage in conversation. I think there was this lady that said that she saw people sitting and talking and spending a lot of time. When we're a lot more efficient. That's not being efficient. Not talking with other people that are sitting a feet away from you is not being efficient. It's going against nature of being a social creature, which you are. You're supposed to talk with the people that are next to you when you're eating. That is the most natural thing. You see, even chimps have kind of interaction of their own when they're eating in a very much of a social thing. That's what we've always done. And it's not just about your brain and how much you eat and many calories. It's about your brain functions. And studies about this, plenty. Alzheimer's, different diseases that affect you because of lack of socializing and talking and engaging with others. It's antidepressing. It's health. It is what you should be doing all along. You should be talking with more people than you probably are, right? It's unfortunately a case that there's this loneliness pandemic as well, where people are just fucking alone. And more videos on that. I have one actually working on right now. But it is so interesting to see that the one thing that is the main issue never addressed. The laws, guys. It's about the laws. It's about the laws of what they can put into your food. It's about the laws of the stuff that they put into your food that make you want to eat more, which is probably banned in other places. It's about the sizes. That's not that they're giving you more and more is better. No, they're giving you more sugar to drink because you'll be more obese and you'll end up eating more crap, and it's going to be good for business. So the idea, oh, I can drink a lot of soda. Well, yeah, you probably shouldn't. I mentioned before how once in a Starbucks in Texas, I asked for a small coffee, and then, out of, being used to, yes, a coffee, please, is typical from Argentina. Like a coffee is like this big, right? It's usually this size. And she brought like the biggest, cup I've seen. That's the smallest one you have. Can you just fill it up like a quarter of that? No, this is okay. And it was bad. So it's equality as well. You have a lot of the shit that more is not always better. Better is better, not more. The quality of what you're eating matters as well. But man, it is a super interesting topic, and it affects your health. It's not just about the weight, how fat you are. If you are obese, it means that there's a lot of other things that are going to be going wrong with you. And you're going to be a lot more easy to manipulate. You're going to be making money not only for the food company, but for the pharmaceutical ones as well that are going to be giving you drugs to keep you sick and alive for a longer period of time. You will be depressed. You'll be lonely. You will be unattractive to other people. You're more likely to end up alone. So it's a fucking a snowball effect that has huge repercussions to your entire life. So, yeah, man, I hope you took some of this and maybe apply it to your life and some of the decisions you're making. And that's going to be all. If you want to learn more about the stuff that I do here on the channel about survival and preparedness, you have my book, Surviving the Economic Collapse, which I'll be talking about some things regarding inflation that are quite interesting. And the other one, Street Survival Skills. Both of these available in the links there below. And again, as I said before, please do subscribe. That will be hugely appreciated. Take care.